Hey everybody! I don't know if you can see me from way over there. Today we're going to be talking about a warm weather shelter for ground dwellers. Okay, because I've been asked a lot of questions in the past about why I always sleep on the ground in the winter, but I never sleep on the ground in the summer. The reason I don't is mainly because of the bugs and the snakes and the mosquitoes and ants and all the creepy crawlies on the ground. Well, yes, I do have one warm weather shelter for summertime. I know it's a little late in the summertime, but there's still plenty of warm weather around, and I wanted to get this video done while I had a chance. And I've been asked about bug nets before. Personally, I prefer the military bug nets. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. I'll cover them and the ins and outs and what little bit I know about them. And just now, if you'll notice the weird way that I approach the camera, I'm giving out the old cordless mic a try. I haven't quite had a chance to experiment with it. It'll be good for long distance shots or for whenever I'm up in the trees. So I found a spot over here in the old pine forest that there's some small pine trees down that we'll use for the shelter. But we're going to go through what's in my rucksack, and we'll get going from there, and we'll show you more about the shelter. Oh, and bug nets. Everything that you've ever not wanted to know about them. Well, at least the military ones. I think I have found a perfect spot because this is an old pine thicket up here, and as you can see, there's tons of pine trees up there everywhere. See, there's a pile of them right there, which is going to be just excellent for use in this shelter. And everything kind of goes uphill right here. You can see right over there where my camera bag is. There's a little flat spot up there, a little flat area, which will be perfect for a shelter. A little cleared out spot. So I'm gonna go up around the hill and dump out my backpack, and I'll show you the contents of my backpack, and then we're gonna come back down the hill here and grab us some pine trees, and I'll show you how to process them for the shelter. All right, this is a pretty decent spot right here. What we'll do, we'll set down the old backpack, and I'll show you some of the items involved in this. Now, there's going to be some people that's going to be saying, why don't you just carry a tent? Well, tents have where you can unzip the windows, and you'll have a screen on them, but you're still mostly surrounded by nylon. And if you'll take a bug net, which incidentally, if you order the military kind, it's called an insect bar. Why, I don't know, but that's just what it's called when you order one. And I've got some part numbers that I think I figured out. I'll show you. But anyway, with a tent, like I say, there's a lot of nylon, but with this warm weather shelter I have, the only thing that's solid is your roof covering you. The entire walls are bug netting, which you can take advantage of the breeze coming through, which is great, but you're not going to have any bugs. Okay, so let's dig through here, and I'm going to show you all the items that is needed for the shelter. Now I brought 2 bug nets because I'm going to show you something. Now, I wasn't in the military. I absolutely was not in the military, but I know how I like using these bug nets. Okay. Now, first off, let me undo this thing. Alright, I have a foam pad. Now, foam pad is necessary to the way the shelter is set up. Okay. I had it attached with the bungee cords. Here in a minute, after I get everything out of my backpack, we'll use them bungee cords to attach my pack to a tree to get it off the ground. Okay. But what I have is a foam pad. Okay. And inside, I have what is called a grabber blanket. Okay, or a space blanket. Okay. Now this one's been modified. It used to be in the past I put grommets on them, and I have 3 of these. One of them has nothing but grommets, extra grommets added. But I've got to where I started putting webbing on these things, sewing webbing on. Seriously sewing webbing. Now, This is a 5x7, and the reason I like to use this is because it's a warm weather shelter. And what you can do is if the sun ever comes through the canopy of the trees, you can turn around to the reflective side and it'll reflect the sun off, okay? So usually this is on the outside of the shelter, but I'm not going to do that today because the reflective part, as you can see, I don't know if it did it or not, but it screws up the automatic brightness of the camera, okay? So we got a foam pad and we got a tarp. And in here, let's see. Let me undo these straps and I'll get you down close where I can show you more of this. All right, I didn't want to waste camera time fooling around with these old straps, but I got them undone, okay? Now, I have in here, let's see. Okay, this is the insect bar or bug net that I'm going to show you the proper way for setting it up, or how it's supposed to be, intended to be used, I believe. Because I'm sure when I set this other one up with my warm weather shelter, somebody's going to say, ooh, that's not how you set it up. But this was been modified for use. Okay, so now, but another thing, just ignore this. This is going to be for showing you in a minute. Okay, I have foam pad, I have a tarp, and then I have my bug net, okay, or insect bar, okay. I also have a snug pack jungle blanket, okay. The idea behind that is it's not a real super thick blanket. It's very lightweight. It's only 25 ounces. But the idea is if it gets cold in the middle of the night, since you have nothing but netting protecting you, you can wrap this around you in case you get a chill at night, okay? So if you don't use this, you can just fold it over a couple of times and it's just that much extra padding underneath you, okay? And then in this little baggie, it sounds funny, in this little baggie went to market. I have, now normally I used to set this thing up with paracord, but I've got to where I started using mule tape. So we're going to use mule tape for this setup today. And I have a bunch of clothespins, lightweight wooden clothespins, okay? And I painted them green so they look cool. All right, let's get strapped to a tree, get this pack out of the way, and then I'm going to show you this other bug net right here, okay? And then we'll get to the shelter. It'll just take me a minute to show you about this one. All right, now I'm not sure. I wasn't in the military, okay? So I'm not 100% sure about these part numbers on these bug nets, and when you look them up, there's a lot of this military type gear that when you buy it, you can look at the description or you can look at the website, and a lot of times you can actually figure out what it is you're buying, okay? But now these bug nets, for some reason, they seem to be a little bit tree's too skinny. These bug nets tend to be just a little bit too confusing. Alright, there you go. That's all that matters, is it's off the ground, okay? Now, I have part numbers here, okay? When you're looking these things up, it's called an insect bar. And I'm not real sure, maybe somebody from the military will know, but everybody's selling these things as an insect bar, and they don't understand that there's two different styles, okay? One of them I think is meant to go over cot, and one of them is made to go inside a double half shelter or two half shelter. I can't remember the name of it right now. But basically what it is when I say, here's the part numbers. Now when I say cot style, okay, the last digits are the ones that are different. There's a log in the way. The last digits are the ones that are different, okay? The 9740 seems to be the kind that the top of it comes up square and it's got webbing that ties out so that it's square above the cot, okay? I don't have one of them. I've never bought one of them. I don't use one of them. The kind that ends in the number 973, that is the kind that it seems like it comes up to a point and the webbing goes across a ridge line, okay? Now that's the one that I'm fixing to show you over here. and I've got it permanently rigged up with a ridge line, and the one I've got modified for my warm weather shelter has no ridge line, and it's got extra webbing sewn opposite of where it should be. Doesn't make much sense, but if you've ever ordered an insect bar, you'll understand. And like I said, for us civilians, we're just going to stick to calling it a bug net. Here's the bug net that I was going to show you. I keep it in a mesh pouch, which is just handy. These things are so lightweight that it's great just to kind of carry them around for no reason. And they're really huge. That's the reason why I like these military ones, is because they're just gigantic. Because a lot of those other bug nets, like the ones that you order for a hammock, they're teeny tiny, okay? Now with this one, to show you how it was intended, I'm not going to say this is the proper way to use it. I'm just going to say this is how it was intended to use, okay? It has a sewn place in it. See right there? It has a sewn place where the ridge line is supposed to go through and come out on the end, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tie it up on this tree right over here. I'm going to tie it up right here and stretch it out. Alright, I'm going to tie it up and I'm going to stretch it out down to that other tree, and then I'm going to kind of show you the idea behind the way it was intended to use. And then I'll take it down and we'll set up our warm weather shelter. Now, when I say that this is the intended use of it, that just means this is how I have figured out how this thing works, okay? I wasn't in the military, so I'm not 100% sure of how this thing was actually used, this style. I know how the cot style is used. But anyway, the thing is, this is a way that you can set it up if you're intending to use it under a tarp, or however you want to use it to your likings. Now, I keep a ridge line in this thing, and the reason I keep a ridge line is to keep this thing from getting all wadded up everywhere, okay? Because what you do is, once your ridge line is up, then, see that it's fed through. And what you can do, forgot to get all these branches out of the way. And what you can do is, once the ridge line is up, the ridge line is fed in between. And then what you can do is you can pull this out, each side. You can pull it out. And you can stake it down. And you can have yourself a full shelter underneath. Okay? Now I'm going to drag the camera inside to show you something real quick. Okay, now that's the intentions. That is the intended way of using it. Okay, it's pretty big. You could actually sleep several people in that thing. I don't know how well you can see it. All right. I'm sort of in the thick canopy of the trees, so it's kind of hard to get an open up shot, but you can clearly see this is a huge net. You can spread it out real wide, and you could probably, if you had to, you could lay 3 or 4 sleeping bags in there, sleep several people in there. So let's go inside and I'll show you what I'm talking about how this ridge line is fed through. Now, like I said, I don't know if this is the proper way of doing it or not, but for me, this is the intended use of it. Is the way it has these nylon things here that's reinforced, the ridge line is supposed to go through there, okay? Now, this thing can be done, I think this thing can be used inside or out depending on your usage. But if I was using it this way for a shelter, what I would do is I would actually use the ridge line that I have in place here to keep it from getting all wadded up and tangled up. But on the inside, I'm going to throw this back over so that you can see. On the inside, it has some webbing. And what I do is I use it to tie off with it, because also you'll have the ridge line on the inside and the webbing on the inside that you can hang like a light from, or, you know, maybe things that you might need at night. Okay? So that's enough wasted time on this. Well, not really wasted time, because it's good to show these things. I'm going to take this down, and then we're going to get into the other bug net, okay? And I'll show you the actual warm weather shelter. Whenever I pack my net back up, since I have two nets, the one with the ridge line, I always wad the ridge line up on top. Okay, you just pack it back in, zip it up, and you're good to go. Okay. All right, now what we're going to do next is we're going to chop some poles, and I'll show you how to process them, but they're going to be overhead high if you can help it. Find some overhead high, and you need 4 of them, and then we're going to chop them all to a sharp point so that we can stab them in the ground. Okay, so I'm going to clear this area out, and then we're going to go back over there to where that pile of trees are, and we're going to grab us some poles. All right, now I've actually already grabbed me one pole, and this warm weather shelter is kind of bizarre the way the poles are set up, because most of these A-frames and things that you see, the poles are, you know, at just a general angle that you always see. But these poles, they're about 2 feet taller than head high because they're spread out more, okay? Because with this type shelter, instead of having that tarp at a narrow pitch, you want it at a real wider pitch, because the only reason the tarp is there for is to protect you from the light rain, to keep the dew off you from in the mornings, and whenever the sun comes through the canopy, or if you're ever out in the open, it'll keep the sun from beating down on you, so you want that small tarp spread out more. But if it's up higher, instead of being down, you're allowing more wind to come through your shelter, okay? You could just, I mean, that takes some explaining to do. I don't know, because sometimes that's kind of hard to catch, but if the tarp's down more, it's more like walls, and if it's up higher, then it's more like it allows more wind. You got more surface of your bug net to go through, okay? Now, what I've done here is I went ahead and I cut one. That was where my head comes to. It's a little bit bigger than head high. Now, once you've got one done, what you want to do is you're going to use it as a basis for the rest of yours, okay? So what I'm going to do now, to keep from poking holes in your tarp, all these little nubbies here, you want to cut them off, smooth everything up. Now, well, down at the bottom it doesn't really matter, but up towards the top where the tarp is going to be, that's going to be where it matters. Okay. All right, that looks pretty good. I think I got most of them off now. So what I'm going to do now is see if you can see me. I know everybody always gets a kick out of seeing the machetes and things that I carry and that I use and the way I carry them. I may have said this before, but in the Ontario, the RTAC 2, the pouch is the perfect size for the Silky Pocket Boy. It actually fits in there, okay? So that's what we're going to be using. That's what we're going to be using to get our next limb. And I think I've got you in shot right there. Alright, what I'm going to do, I got 2 down. And I'm going to find 2 more about this length, and then I'll show you how you process the ends for it. See, this is just fantastic when you can just find a pile of them right here. Anytime you can use dead wood, you're better off. You're much better off. You just lay it up against it. Let's see. Well, see, that one was just laying there. I thought that was my example. You just line it up like that right there. Cut a few feet off. You're good to go. That'll be number 3. Get rid of that. 2 down, 1 to go. And they're just laying right here. You just couldn't ask for any better than that. Alright, I got all 4 of them sawed. Okay. And I got them all, I got them all cleaned up to where there's no little branches and stuff hanging off to where it'll hit hit my, poke holes in my tarp. So what you want to do next is you want to sharpen all 4 ends of them. And when you sharpen the ends of them, you're going to want to sharpen it. It's different. Normally you'll have the everybody gets a kick out of seeing this. If you want to impress your campmates, just take put your thumb in the lanyard and lift it up and grab it. Campmates get a kick out of that. All right, now what you want to do is normally on these shelters, the big end is what gets stabbed in the ground. Nope. This time, the big end gets notched, and the little end is what gets sharpened to a point. So, all right, let's find a place to do that. Well, let's see. Well, actually, I think I could do it right here. Turn this around. There's several different ways of doing this. And a lot of times it's a good idea to hold one against a tree like this right here. So that's another good thing, is if it's good, strong wood and it's not completely rotted. See, another thing too is what you're doing is you're cutting away from yourself. Kind of awkward holding up a piece this big. So you're going to wind up with a nice sharp point to it. And sometimes little tips like this are a good thing for if you're a long ways off the trail and there's nobody around, you don't want to get cut. So anytime you can cut up high, away from your legs, away from your body, it's a good thing to do. Okay? So, all right, I'm going to cut the other 3 and then I'll show you how to process the very end of them. All right, I had the skinny end down there sharpened to a point to stab in the ground. Okay? So what you want to do now is on the thick end, what you want to do, on every one of them, now it doesn't matter how far back you go, okay? But what you want to do is you want to saw down about halfway. Okay, saw about halfway into it, okay? And then what you want to do, see if I can do this right. You want to put your knife here on the end. If I got you in shot, let me move you down a little bit. You're going to put your knife out on the end, right in the center, and beat it through. Okay? And that's what you're looking for on the end of every one of them. Okay? And it's kind of tricky to baton in because this thing's like, these are going to be like 7 to 8 feet long, but in general, you should be able to. And if there's a knot, put the knot on the other side. Let's see. No, let's just see what happens. I can't remember now if you're supposed to baton the knot away or if you're supposed to leave the knot. Let's just see what happens. Okay, that's what you're doing. You want to get rid of that knot, okay? Because what you're doing is essentially you're getting a flat right here is what you're doing. Okay, now this needs a little bit more carving so that it's nice and flat. And there you go. Okay, you just want to process the ends of every one of them just like that. All of the uprights carved and shaped and notched and ready to go. So what you want to do now is take your intended roof, tarp roof, whatever you're going to use, and you lay it out on the ground between the trees of where your intended ridge line is going to be. Move you down here a little bit. is a reference for where your poles are going to be, and you'll get more of an understanding of it later. And so what you want to do is you want to stand directly above the end of it, okay? And you're going to drag up your poles, okay? All right. Let's see if you got that. Now I'm going to bring the camera in a little bit closer. As you can see, it's not a real sharp point. It's way out. And I have it directly above my tarp. Okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move you closer and I'm going to show you what comes next. Okay, here's the basic idea behind it. What I have is once again, here's the edge of the tarp. And the edge of the tarp is directly underneath where these joints are. And the joints are in line with my tree for my intended ridge line. And as you can see, I have stabbed them in the ground and they're pretty much standing up on their own. So what you want to do now is you want to come over here and in line to where your other tree is, you'll want to put your poles up above the tarp there. Okay, let's see if I can catch that on camera. And then we'll move back and I'll show you. What you're going to do is stab them in the ground. You want to be right above it. Let's see. Let me move the camera. Okay, I think you can see that now. Now what we're doing here, we're going to be right in line. And you want to try to get the height of it the same. So what I'm doing, I'm stabbing these in the ground. Now, they are freestanding. Okay? They are freestanding. And the idea behind these is this is actually like an A-frame with no ridge pole. It's just going to have all the outriggers for it and the four legs. And so what you'll do next thing is, let's go this right here, move you right here. Now right on the top, before you tie these things off, what you want to do is, you see these sharp points right here? All you want to do is you want to carve off these sharp points right here. Okay? Because that way you won't be poking a hole in your tarp. Okay? Just carve that off nice. Okay? Alright, I got that side carved off. I'm going to turn around and carve this other side. I'll move the camera. They don't always stay up there on their own. Kind of mash them in the ground, sometimes they'll stay, but we're going to tie these off with the mule tape. Alright, I got you right here. It's this sharp point and this edge right here. So all you want to do is just carve this off gently to where you don't have a sharp point on it, so that you don't poke no holes into your tarp. I ain't got to win no beauty contest. Now if you got enough paracord or mule tape or rope or whatever you want to use, sometimes you can wrap it around enough that this will create sort of a cushion for your tarp. Alright, that'll be good enough. Now I'm going to do the other side and then I'll show you how the mule tape goes from tree to tree. As you can see now what I've got, I have these stabbed in the ground, and what I'm going to do now, I'll get behind here so I can show you. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to tie off my mule tape to that tree, and then I'm going to come to here and wrap round and round and round, and then I'm going to come to this one, and I'm going to wrap round and round, and then I'm going to come towards the other one, and it's going to give me like a mule tape ridge line. Now I'm going to bring in close right here so that you can see this one. Okay, I've tied off at that end, and then I went towards there and wrapped round and round. Now I'm going to show you what I'm going to do right here to tie this off. Okay. What you want to do is, see, that's the idea behind the notches, is because the notch gives it strength to where they will be pulled together. If they were round, they could just slide apart like that. But since they're notched, they're going to be held together, and you'll be pulling pressure on them. Okay, so you want to go under and over. This is what I usually do, and it's got a nice V right here. It's got a nice V for the mule tape to set in. You can also use paracord. Usually what I do is I'll go around one time parallel, okay, and then I'll start crossing over. And I'll usually do 2 crosses there, and then 2 crosses here, okay? So I like to do 2 parallel, 2 cross that way, 2 cross that way, okay? And then what I do is I go over and up around the ridge line, and I bring the ridge line up, and see, now when you give it a tight pull like that, you're pulling those poles in this direction and pulling these poles in this direction, and then you tie off to your other tree. Okay, so I'm gonna go down there and tie this thing off, and then I'll show you how the tarp goes and what you got to do underneath it next. All right, here's a little bit of a back view. Okay, I got the pole spread way out, stabbed in the ground. Okay, you got your ridge line tied from tree to tree, and you've got your other one there. Now the tops of these are in line with the tarp. Okay, now next part, you want to take your foam pad and put your foam pad in the place of that. Okay, kind of dark, I don't know if you can see. Got it tied off there. Got my sticks about 8 feet long stabbed in the ground right at the end where the tarp goes. There's the other end right at the end where the tarp goes. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to replace your tarp with your foam pad. I'm going to go ahead and undo my snow pack blanket. These are kind of cool because, like I say, you need sometimes you need a little bit of a blanket at night. And this thing's cool because it comes in a stuff sack, and you can take the stuff sack, you can cram extra socks, underwear, pillows, and things in there of that nature, and use this as a pillow. Now I'm just going to lay this on here. That way everything will be inside. Okay. Now the next thing that you want to do is you want to hang your mosquito net on the ridge line. Okay. So I'm gonna get it out of the bag and show you how it works. With the modified ski net. Why am I thinking ski net? Mosquito net. All right, with the modified one, oh, this has still got the tag on it. Insect bar. It's got the part number too, okay? In case you want to order one, that's the way it is. Now with this one, what it is it has certain, where is it? Okay. This has factory, this has a couple of, little bit of this webbing sewn in from the factory. The webbing from the factory is it's a smaller, it's like 3/4, maybe 5/8 wide. And what I've done is I've gone all along the ridge line and I've added extra. Because see, here's the other part. There's the other part that I was telling you about that had a hole that the rope fed through, but I added some 1-inch webbing. I just happened to find olive drab, because you know how it is. When you're in the woods, you gotta look cool. Alright, so what you do... Alright, look out. Now, what you gotta do is you take the ends of them, okay, then you find the center line, which I have here, and you get into the center, of your ridge line, which I believe is going to be about right there, okay? And then what you do is you tie those two off, okay? Now you'll get the idea here in a minute of why this is set up the way it is, the weird way it's set up, because, you know, you might be like, how come you just don't use a ridge pole? Well, using a ridge line out of either paracord or mule tape, it just works so much better for this, okay? Now you'll see right here why I have added the webbing. If you ever buy one of these insect bars, you'll understand why I added the webbing. And see, you can just move this around. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to tie off every single one of these and figure out where they go. And you don't want to tie them too tight. You want to tie them, you know, just enough to where they'll stay. Because what you're going to do is you're going to scoot them all around, and you don't want them out from under your tarp. You're going to want them to stay contained under your tarp. Okay. Now, believe it or not, this is actually a pretty lightweight kit for a summer shelter, because the foam pad don't weigh much, the blanket don't weigh much, the mosquito net don't weigh much, and that little bitty tarp don't weigh much. Okay, we're right in the middle. I'm gonna move you. I'm gonna move you and we'll tie off the ends. See how I've got this to where I can slide this and just position it anywhere I want it? See, that's the beauty of adding the webbing. Because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to tie this off on the end, okay? And on the very, very end, I'm going to actually tie it around here, okay? All right, now once that's done, what I'm going to do is I'll go down to the other end and tie it off. So I'll take the end one here, tie that off. And it also kind of gives it just a touch of strength. You know, that can make it just a little bit stronger. Tie it off there about 3 times. See, what you can do now is you can spread out. You can spread out this mosquito netting just a little bit. Okay. All right, here's kind of a backed up view of it. Everything's tied up across the top, and it's just thrown on the ground. So now what you want to do with it, I'm going to show you, is what you want to do is you want to take the mosquito netting and tuck it up under your foam pad. Okay. Now everybody knows I don't really like to brag about things, but I will say this. You will never, ever, under no circumstances, ever find a shelter that gives you this much wind flow and yet protects you from bugs and mosquitoes. tucked up under, and I'll show you how to get inside it at the end of the video, okay, or later on. Now, what you want to do next is the tarp, okay, and the tarp is kind of self-explanatory why it has the webbing on it, and I'm gonna put it on, and you'll understand kind of now to why I laid the tarp on the ground so that I could figure out the spacing for the sticks. Okay, so let's get the tarp on. See how it has the webbing out on the end already? That way you don't have to fool with a bunch of extra paracord. You just tie it off and you're good to go. Let's get you down on the other end. Alright, came undone right here. But that's okay. I'll retie it. Alright. Now we'll go around over there on the other side and retie it. With the way this webbing is, you can tie and make this come around for more rain protection. And there you go. That is how it's done. Now, let me get back here behind the camera right here real quick. What I was explaining to you before, okay, you have all this surface area for the wind to come through, and you've got this roof where it'll still shed the rain, but it's up high enough to where you've got airflow coming under. And the main thing behind this is you want to make sure that at least that roof is out further than the base. Okay? I'm going to show you a few outside views of it, and then I'm going to crawl in it. I think the easiest way for me to explain how to get in here is just putting on the old microphone and crawling in. Okay? Now, what you've got is you have everything tucked up under your foam pad. Okay? So the way you get into this thing, you would think that you would get in from the very end, but for me, I think I've noticed it's sometimes easier to get in from the side, okay? So what you want to do is you want to pull up some of the mosquito net as little as possible, throw your blanket down, okay? Now what you want to do is pull up a little bit from the side and just crawl under, okay? Now I don't know if you're going to be able to see me or not in here, but crawl in, and then what you want to do is you want to turn yourself around inside here. I got plenty of height in here. Okay. Now where the clothespins come in is sometimes the clothespins, sometimes there's configurations where you can set yourself up. Now if you can see this on camera, what I'm doing, I'm moving the foam pad. I don't know if you can see it or not, but I'm lifting it up and I'm tucking it back under. And then that's all you do. okay? And then you lay down. You may or may not can see me in here. Now I got my blanket all wadded up at the end. Oh! And then you just lay down and then you are so good to go, okay? Now there's some extra tie outs on here if you want to tie this net out away from you, which sometimes I do, okay? I know it's kind of a pain getting in and out of here, but I don't like zippers. Zippers rip. Zippers get stuck. They get tree bark in them. They get pine in them. It's not a good thing. I think I'm going to bring you inside for a minute. All right, you're inside my warm weather shelter and we are completely surrounded. You can see the roof up there. You can see how I've got it all tied off up there. You can see how it is on the end there. We're completely surrounded by bug net. Now, I'm going to ease you down here to right here. Okay, let's stop right here. Now, once you get inside, it's like I say, you're going to want to scoot over just a little bit. And then you just simply lift up the foam pad. Okay? And then you pull your bug net up under as far as you can. Okay? Now, and then you pull this down. Okay, and then you're good to go. Okay? Now, let's run this right here. Run this over here. I had that in front of the camera. I don't know if you're going to be able to see me or not. It's kind of cramped in here. Let me lay down. Alright, let's see. Now I got to adjust my viewfinder. Alright. Wrong way. Oh, there you are now. See? And now the thing about this is believe it or not, you're going to find it very, very hard to believe. If you have this bug net, if you have a bug net staked off under a tarp, ants can still get into it. Once I started taking this bug net and putting it under my foam pad, I've never had ants get in here. Never. And I don't know why. Maybe I haven't encountered the type of ants that are out there, but seriously, they've never. I've had them crawling on the outside of the net before, okay? But I've never had them get in here, so that's pretty good. So this is the inside. I'll show you a few more views of it from the outside. I hope you liked it. Hope you had fun. I did. We got a little bit more warm weather left, so if you have all this stuff, I mean, like I say, mule tape, paracord, foam pad, everybody's got them. Your choice of tarp. I prefer a 5x7 grabber blanket. That way, if the sun's going to be overhead, you can turn a reflective part out, and it will help keep your shelter from getting as hot. And then these bug nets, look them up. You can buy them. Military surplus. They call it an insect bar. Okay. I had fun. Hope you did. I will see you in the next one.